everyone, it's Lauren again, and today in this video I want to talk about something that I've been meaning to talk about forever. So I, as most of y'all know, was diagnosed with a form of autism back in 1987 in the winter, and at that time I was 5 years old. And all of the autism spectrum back then was poorly understood. I personally feel like psychiatric illness of any type was poorly understood when I was a kid. Prior to the 80s, people were put in institutions if they had anything wrong with them in any way. And people that would have been high-functioning autism prior to my time would have been considered as bratty and mean. I was considered mean lots of times, told straight to my face that I was mean. And it was probably one of the most hurtful things that I could have ever experienced. It didn't matter who did it. I was told that uncontrollable crying is unacceptable anywhere because society has adopted that role. The only thing that I've ever read about in the Bible is about how you treat other people and that God knows the insides. I was raised in church and I have read the entire Bible literally from front to cover multiple times. And about my views on autism, I believe that it's always been around, but people just didn't know about it like they do now. For example, I honestly believe that my grandmother's best friends, they had issues, and had they have gone to the doctor for their issues, that they would have been today been diagnosed with some form of autism. But being raised in their time, their parents didn't take them to the doctor because they didn't realize that there was a real problem that could be treated. And also, one time when I was younger, I was mentioning something to Mom and asking her about if she knew anybody else that had any of the same problems that I did. She mentioned two of her cousins cried all the time in school the way that I did, and that brought something up. I didn't know much about any form of autism back then, but it just reminded me of me, and I couldn't help but wondering, do I have the same thing that they do? And when I was in high school, there was a girl I could swear that if she would have went to the doctor, she would have been diagnosed definitely high-functioning autistic. She was just really odd, and she didn't have a lot of friends, but she was nice. When I was a kid, we didn't have all of the resources that we have now. We had Childcraft and World Book encyclopedias, and we used those for research projects. I was recently skimming through an old DSM book that was dated 2000, and here it is. But the criteria was a little bit different for diagnosing autism spectrum disorders back then, because you couldn't diagnose attention deficit disorder according to this DSM if the child had symptoms of autism. But now you can diagnose both autism and attention deficit disorder, but the treatment was still the same as what it is now as far as the medications go. But luckily, we know more about it now than what we do then. But they also said that in this very DSM that it does have a genetic tendency, especially the higher functioning type of it. If you want to look through an old DSM, you can always buy them on Amazon. I'm keeping mine, and I'm not getting rid of it. Autism, I always felt like it was probably one of the most common and misunderstood developmental disorders ever, and it continues to be the most common and the fastest growing of all developmental disabilities of any type. What we've always known about autism is that you are born with it. My mom even noticed some abnormalities about me that she didn't really think much about, just thought they were a little odd when I was an infant. And unfortunately, the stigma around autism has not really decreased. It was awful when I was growing up. I was so stigmatized that I started disliking myself for everything and constantly worrying about what people would think of me. And what really irks me is that these religious fundamentalist groups that don't understand anything about autism still think of it as the parents spoiling the child and the child is just being a brat. I am not sorry when I say this if I hurt somebody's feelings, but I personally feel like this is judgment. And when you're judging somebody, according to Matthew chapter 7, it is considered to be sinful. And in God's eyes, all sin is the same. And it's also considered idolatry. So basically, you're no different than what you were if you were praying to a non-Christian god like Buddha or Mohammed. And I have also seen this a lot happening on the news and from what I see on TikTok and YouTube from being a TikTok and YouTube creator, that kids are still being abused by educational professionals if they have special needs. And unfortunately, something just recently happened in the next county over from us a few months ago about someone hurting a special needs child, and that person did not get fired from her job. That pisses me off. Someone mistreats a person with disability, they are not qualified for anything. And it's sad that all this crap is going on despite autism awareness, and that it's everywhere now and that more kids are being diagnosed with it. Sad reality. Yeah. Alright guys, thank you. Bye.